Hello, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here today with you, and I'm very happy to share my thoughts on works of Monika Drożyńska, which I titled DIOR, Not War, Embroidery Activism in Poland, Needleworks of Monika Drożyńska in Public Space. And I'm sorry for coughing, but I'm slightly sick, ill, I think. So sorry for the interruption. Monika Drożyńska and her needleworks in context of activism and public space in Poland takes a central part of this presentation. Drożyńska calls herself an embroidery artist, which has been the main artistic interest for her in last years. It is difficult to classify her works as they bring together three types of artistic medium: letters, embroidery, and performance. Her signature works are made of letters, which brings me closer to the medium I am interested in my work, literature, and its power to engage the reader to think and to rethink their own identity. To take a closer look at embroidery activism in Poland, I would like to divide my presentation in following parts. First, I would like to briefly say who Drożyńska is. Then I will discuss the embroidery on intercity trains, which the author herself calls civil disobedience. Then I will talk about her project Wyhaftuj, Embroider Yourself, following by Myślę, czuję, decyduję. I think, I feel, I decide. Polish women went on strike. And the last part will be about her latest project, Jota Złośnica, letter J, the shrew. And at the end of my presentation, I would like to sum up the original ideas and by Drożyńska. Embroidery activism is a unique way of artistic and civil expression. Therefore, I hope that exchanging my thoughts with you will eventually lead me to interesting new questions and views on that topic. Firstly, I need to present Drożyńska herself. What we can read on her personal website is that she was born in 1979 in Poland, in Gorlice, which is a little city on German-Polish border. She's a visual artist, embroiderer, activist, PhD researcher at Academy of Fine Arts in Krakow, in Poland, a pioneer of embroidery techniques in contemporary art and textiles in public space. She is interested in language, which she explores using hand embroidery on fabric. She has collaborated with the Zachęta National Gallery of Art, the Center for Contemporary Art, Ujazdowski Castle, the Contemporary Museum in Wrocław, Mumok in Vienna, the Ludwig Museum in Budapest, Beaux-Arts in Brussels, and Sotheby's in Tel Aviv. Works in the collection of Bunkier Sztuki, which is a part of National Museum Krakow, Mozart Museum of Contemporary Art, National Museum Kiev, and Lentos in Austria. So, yeah, around the world. She's one of the most popular yet controversial pioneers of contemporary embroidery techniques in public spaces in Poland. And she's actively recreating space in cities and galleries. The artist explores her interest in language using embroidery on tablecloth, small tapestries, flags, billboards, banners, and even headrests covers on trains. She combines handcrafting with political activism and feminism through her works about pandemics, misogyny, and war in Ukraine. Drożyńska successfully uses the historically feminine technique in order to conduct a dialogue about the gender roles, mixing different languages, textures, and surroundings. Embroidery is thus freed from the traditional discriminatory role attribution placed in new political contexts and emancipated. For Drożyńska, being an artist is also being an activist. Creativity is a social activity, and art is supposed to be available to everyone. One of her, let's say, signature performances is embroidery on PKP intercity trains. I will show you a few examples of that in my presentation. Drożyńska waits until the passengers go to the restaurant or leave the compartment to have a talk on their phone. Then she takes the train headrest covers and embroiders texts in a hurry. And here are my examples from her Instagram account. Here we have narwali bzu, naszarpali, nadarli go, natargali. They plucked the lilac, they tore it, which is the citation from Polish poet Julian Tuwim. Then we have Majówka dla zdrówka, long weekend of May for health. My translation may not be perfect, but I hope it's okay. And for example, pamiętamy, we remember. She posted that in social media on April the 19th this year. It is not embroidered in black, but in yellow, being the symbolic color of ghetto uprising in Warsaw during the Second World War. Here is the example of international embroidery in Norway, and some embroidery on women's rights. Prawa kobiet zamiast kwiatów, women's rights instead of flowers on March the 8th this year. Yes. It needs to be mentioned that Drożyńska is very elegant while she travels, so that she does not look like a person who deliberately destroys other people's property. And now I would like to go to the next project, Wyhaftuj się, Embroider Yourself, from 2016. It's a project documenting anger using the technique, again, of embroidery on fabric. The action has an open form. It takes form of meetings at table, which is set up in public spaces of different cities. Any passerby can sit down and embroider his or her anger. The project will continue until the words appearing on the fabric begin to lose their legibility. Since 2016, more than 2,000 people in Europe and Asia have embroidered in Turkish, Hungarian, Slovak, Czech, German, Polish, French, English, Japanese, Romanian, Slovenian, Greek, Ukrainian, Chinese, Mandarin, Dutch. Embroider Yourself has been implemented and presented as part of many exhibitions and projects in Poland and abroad. The English translation, Embroider Yourself, lacks what the Polish original contains, the double meaning. Haftować means both to vomit and to embroider in Polish. Now I would like to take a closer look at some examples of other political activism examples, and explore two feminist projects aiming to discuss the position of women in Poland. The first one being Myślę, czuję, decyduję. I think, I feel, I decide, about the women's strike in Poland. The picture you can see was taken in 2017 in a gallery in Poznań, where I currently do my PhD project. And it's only a fragment of the cloth, which is 8 meters long. On October the 3rd, 2016, the activist group from Krakow called Złote Rączki, Golden Hands, organized the first action of occupation embroidery in the Manga Museum in connection with the National Women's Strike. It consisted in embroidering a banner, "I think, I feel, I decide," together with people involved in the Black protest. What is the Black protests? Black protests were held in Poland between October 2016 and March 2018 and were related explicitly to the abortion law, not so much to an objection to the attempts to tighten the existing law as to demand to actually liberalize it, as well as for recognizing women as subjects, both in the social and political sense and in the existential one, subjects that actively participate in social life and are able to manage their own lives in an intentional, responsible, and competent manner. Today, the abortion law in Poland is one of the strictest in Europe. According to the group itself, it was a form of artistic and political activity. The use of textiles as a kind of political manifesto is nothing new and is part of a variety of artistic activities involved in socialist, feminist, activist projects. And now I would like to tell a little about the latest feminist subversive project, the most recent project called Jota Złośnica, letter J, the shrew. I struggled again with the translation into English, but I hope the letter J, the shrew, or J, the shrew, would be the proper one, as in both Polish and English versions of Shakespeare's The Taming of the Shrew, the words Złośnica and shrew appear. Drożyńska describes her project as follows. My works look like a collection of balls strung on strings because I wanted to dress them in the form of a rattle, a garland, a toy in the hands of ideologues. The balls are made of embroidered fabrics with embroideries consisting of letters J, I, and Y. Because there was a grammatical dispute about them, in a way, it is a site-specific exhibition because it takes place in a former palace chapel where there are epitaphs that are still used, that still use the grammatical form with the ypsilon. For example, najmilsza, najpiękniejsza instead of najmilsza, najpiękniejsza, the dearest, the most beautiful. The exhibition is multimodal. It combines not only words and embroidery, but also sculpture and animation. It is one of the newest projects, which can be seen in Orońsko, in Chapel Gallery, which is in fact a real chapel. Why is the letter J a shrew? One may ask. The history of its use in Polish is rather short, as before the 18th and 19th centuries, it was not used in any written texts. Instead of that, the letters Y and I were the grammatical norm. Users of Polish language at that time were divided in conservative and liberal groups. One of the liberals, historian Joachim Lelewe, wrote, "Go ahead, gentlemen, informed and informing. Go ahead, don't be discouraged. Start major changes. Because if you banish ypsilon from the Polish language, you will clean up many apparent grammatical irregularities. You will go through the thorny road. You will be hated by everyone, but how sweet the memory of the future is for you. And maybe you can reach your goal." The conservatives instead describe it as the source of evil. J as the source of evil, which will destroy the native culture, language, customs because of its J from hell, or even the shrew, seed of pestilence and corruption, or just tailed J. What's more, also the grammatical gender of the letter J has changed after the adoption into Polish. Before the reform, it used to be called Jota with A ending, suggesting the feminine gender. In Polish, there is a masculine, feminine, neuter gender contrast. After the reform, it began to be Jot without the feminine suffix. This dispute took place at the turn of the 18th and 19th centuries, and spelling codification was a matter of practice, but also of politics. The reform of the language was an element of the Enlightenment modernization, and the Polish language, reinforced by rules, was to become the mainstay of the nation, fighting to regain its statehood. The rules of spelling mainly interested intellectuals. Not only linguists argued, but also astronomers, poets, politicians, and military men. The milieu in which Polish orthography was defined was therefore both diverse and limited to a small group of the male elite. Today, the letter J has a masculine gender, but exploring the history and politics of letters reveal how politicians, researchers, and simple people use the language for their own good and accordingly to their particular interests. And here is another example from the exhibition. I see a threat of imposing gender and LGBT ideology on Poland. Jota, the tailored shrew from hell, which connects us to the present situation in not only in Poland but in the whole world. Traditional handcrafted objects have a long tradition. Once forgotten, hand embroidery has been having a revival in the last few years. Drożyńska, along with other embroidery activists, is getting more and more popular, provokes and calls to action through her embroidery. Language and parole, word and sound, female occupation and social activism in public space engage to rethink the political and social situation in Poland. What I hope is also visible and will be visible also abroad. Thank you for listening.